My name is Bram Fokke and I've also done a bachelor's degree in international business and management. This also included a lot of cultural communication with other foreign students, and we had to travel abroad 2 times during my studies for placement and study. And I graduated in 2006. And after that I decided I wanted to travel and see more of the world. So I took a trip to Asia for 6 months, and the country I liked most was China, and so after returning to Holland I decided to go back there and study Chinese.
Okay. And for how long did you stay in China? After that second time,
In all I stayed about 3.5 years.
Oh.
I lived in China in different places.
Okay.
And only recently I came back to Holland.
Nice. And what have you done there exactly in China?
I started studying Mandarin, and later I've traveled a lot and I worked as a part-time English teacher.
Okay. Well, I can imagine that China gives you a big cultural shock when you see it for the first time, like you step out of the airplane. So how was this experience for you?
For the first time I literally just bought a single flight to Shanghai, and I had no plan or no goal. So when I stepped out of the airplane, the first thing that struck me was the people. There were so many people in China, and I had to take a subway to the hotel I was going to, and it was so crowded, and it took me a long time to get used to that. Or perhaps I never got used to it in those years, that it's always so crowded everywhere you go. This brings together also noise and garbage and smells and stressful situations. People are pushing to get into a bus, or it's more chaotic.
Oh, yeah.
My first impression.
Yeah.
One example I can think of, when anytime I had to deal with government agencies or police, it was set up very differently as it is in the Netherlands, because there are so many people who work for the government, that there are so many different offices you can go to, and it seems that many people have very small tasks in this big machine, perhaps, of government offices. For example, I lost my passport one time, so I went to the police station and they told me I was in the wrong police station. I had to go to another one because of where I lost it, where I lost my passport. And I went there and they told me I could not speak English, so they sent me to another office. And this went on and on and on, and it took almost the whole day to get one statement. And it seems that the people there did not really know how to deal with this, probably because foreigners don't usually come there with this kind of question. But I think if you would go to a police station in the Netherlands, they will know what to do, or at least know where to find information on what to do. So the bureaucracy is very difficult to deal with.
So you taught English during the time you've been there. How did you experience the relationship between the teacher and its class in China compared to the Netherlands?
I think it is very different there than it is in the Netherlands. The students mostly listen to what the teacher has to say and would never come up with their own ideas. If you ask them a question, you need to ask a yes or no question or a closed question. But if you ask an opinion, it is very difficult for students there to answer with their own opinions. I was trying to teach in the way that perhaps European universities have the education program, that students need to solve problems or come up with their own solutions or their own questions sometimes. But this did not work at all. I need to be very strict and ask a strict question and expect a very direct answer to that question.
Yeah.
And in the beginning I thought it is perhaps a very boring class, because it wasn't the same as the classes I'm used to.
Did you want to break the ice, let's say, or did you accept it at a certain point?
First I just tried to see how the others would react, but then I tried to adapt myself to them, because I am the visitor. So I behave like they would expect me to behave.
Okay. Okay. I can imagine that you had a boss as well, like the one who pays you.
Mm-hmm.
So how was your relationship with that person?
I didn't see my boss very often with the teaching jobs. The boss is just there to actually hand over the money and to tell you which day you have to work or not. But the relationship was very distant. It was not any personal relationship like perhaps in the Netherlands you can say, hey, how are you? Or something. It was not the same.
Not the same?
No.
Okay, okay. And what about the relationships with Chinese families? So outside the job part.
It's very diverse. Many people are perhaps shy to meet a foreigner because there are not so many foreigners in China, and so they will shout hello after me, or they don't know what to say to me, or they don't expect me to speak a few words in Chinese. But the students, mostly young people who I met who study English and they're more comfortable with English, they're very interested. They want to know everything about my country and about Europe or Western countries.
Okay. So we're actually two like different worlds.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Do you think the differences in relationships between Chinese and Dutch families have anything to do with emancipation of women?
I think so, because the role of men and women in many families is still very traditional in China. For example, people get married when they're very early, when they're very young, and it's not as black and white as you can think. It's not a very clear case. For example, in the Netherlands you could say you have certain jobs that are more typical for men, more typical for women. In China it's different. They're not the same roles, but still they're very traditional family settings. So I would say in the Netherlands women are much more emancipated. They have more freedom, they can pursue a career if they want to, and sometimes in China it's more restricted to their opportunities. The families are much more traditional. For example, the grandparents live with their children, or I know many people who work in a different place, so they leave their own children with their own parents to take care of. And this is something that you will not see in Holland it's not very common here. I think it's because there are so many people in China that it's difficult to be individualistic. But almost everything happens collectively, in groups.
Okay. So how did your family react to your trip, going back to China?
Well, nobody knew in the beginning that it was going to take 3.5 years.
Okay.
I even did not know that. I just kept on staying longer and longer. But of course my parents had a difficult time with having I'm only child, so having their own son be on the other side of the world. They let me alone to do my own things that I wanted, and they even visited me one time.
Okay. How did your wife's family react on that decision, going to Europe?
Well, you should ask her.
Yeah.
But, I think they are happy with it, as long as they know that she is okay, she's in a good environment, and what her family thinks about Europe is that, of course, the standard of living is higher here. It's perhaps easy to find a good job, or the quality of life is better.
Did you experience also differences in how people define happiness here and there?
Yes, I would say many people define happiness as in money terms. They live to work, and they work as much as possible so that they can earn as much money as possible, and then they can buy a bigger car or buy luxury goods. Or some people, just to survive, they need to work a lot. So it's a lot about money. It seems to be sometimes people only think about one thing, it's money.
Okay. So in other words, the more money you earn, the more happy you are in China.
At this moment, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
In your experience, of course. Yeah.
I think it is because of the history. Not long ago, China was a very poor country, and maybe in 1 or 2 generations, it has become a country with a big difference between rich and poor people. And the rich people of now maybe had parents who were very poor before, so they don't know really how to deal with all this wealth and luxury. They're not used to this. They would maybe not know how to save money or invest it. They just spend it on something they want right now. If you gave some people the choice of having more free days of holidays or having more money, they would choose the second one.
Having more money?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Do you think that the Chinese are more goal-oriented and focus on the future more than Dutch people are?
I don't think so. Dutch people would care more about their career. They make long-term plans for what they want to achieve. And Chinese people don't think in the same way. They will think, I want to earn so much money, and when I get this job I'm happy and I will stay with this for a long time. And they might be always trying to earn more money, but that is not really like a long-term goal, I think.
Then who do you think who are better money savers? Are the Chinese or the Dutch?
I think the Dutch are better at saving money because they pick a specific goal to save it for example a new car or holidays, or in order to buy a house or something like that. And many Chinese that I know like to spend their money now and enjoy it now. And as you know, that Chinese are very good at doing business, and I think it's because they simply try it. They try everything now, and they don't need to write a business plan beforehand. They just do it. And I think Dutch people like to plan everything and write everything down and write a whole book about it before they even spend €1 on it, on an idea. About risk taking, I think Chinese are more polite than Dutch people, or than Western people. With polite I mean they would speak in a certain way as not to embarrass themselves or embarrass the other person. And perhaps you can see this as risk avoiding, not to make a bad scene. So it's a little bit double.
Okay.
They take risks with money, but not risks with social interaction.
Where do you find it easier to communicate with unknown people? Is it in China or here in Europe?
Easier, I don't know, but there's a clear difference in Europe, or at least in Northern Europe, like the Netherlands, that people say exactly what they think. They are very direct, in a positive or negative way, it doesn't matter. And in China you never really know what the person is really thinking. They can be very hospitable and